Today we're going to be having a look at the Deathadder V3 HyperSpeed. And no, this one is not just a normal Deathadder V3, it is actually quite a bit smaller. So if you're at all interested in that mini ergo type beat, then definitely continue watching this video. As a quick disclosure, yes, I did buy this with my own money. So as always, my opinion will absolutely be my own. Getting into the unboxing experience, it's not even worth opening it up. There's basically nothing in there except for a really stiff USB-A to USB-C paracord cable, the mouse, this dongle adapter, and then the receiver as well. But to be fair, their packaging is now actually pretty sick and super eco-friendly, but there's nothing special about it because this is a HyperSpeed mouse. But don't be fooled by the HyperSpeed name because this is still 119 euros here in Europe. But unlike other HyperSpeed models, this one no longer runs on AA or AAA batteries. This just has a normal included LiPo battery inside. Getting into the shape, this is a properly downscaled and also reimagined Deathadder shape. And when I'm talking about the Deathadder, I'm obviously talking about the Deathadder V3. Now I do not own that mouse anymore because that one was way too big for me. But with my 19x10 hands, I can absolutely still use this with a claw grip. In order to give you a better sense of how small this thing actually is, here it is compared to a Ponnet Stormbreaker. As you can see, it is around the same size. And in terms of the side profile, the Ponnet Stormbreaker is a tiny bit more tall towards the center, and overall these shapes are pretty similar, but we will go into some more differences in a bit. And here it also is compared to the Lamsu Thorn, which is kind of a similar size as well when watching it from beneath. And here is also a side profile comparison. As you can see, this is no longer a large mouse, and I think that should be plenty clear by now. Being an ergo mouse, you can absolutely use this with a palm grip, a claw grip, or maybe even a fingertip grip for whatever reason. But one thing that I absolutely hate about this shape is the front flare towards the right side up here. This thing kind of sticks out when you actually grip it, and the way that I grip this mouse with my 19x10 aggressive claw, my fingers go right on top of that flare up here, and it just feels awkward as hell. Because imagine you're trying to grip on to a shape that goes like this, your fingers go on here, and your fingers just kind of pressing onto a slope that wants your fingers to slide down. This just feels super fucking awkward. This is why I much prefer the shape of the Stormbreaker here, because this mouse does not have that awkward front flare that pushes out like crazy. I know that this is a remastered version of the original Deathadder shape and it used to be way worse than this, but come on, if you already remade the shape and are coming up with a new size as well, why include that weird front flare? Because I don't see a single benefit of this. If you would simply make it either more straight or like the Stormbreaker over here, kind of push it a slight bit more inwards, it would be so much more safe and many more people would be able to enjoy it. So from a design perspective, I simply don't get why this is a thing. Another thing that I absolutely do not get is the high lip up here. Having a mouse lip like that for the base is insanely normal, but the way that it kind of sticks out, it absolutely is edging you. If your fingers touch a mouse pad when gaming, you will be sure to feel this edge with your fingers down here. Now, this wasn't a deal breaker for me because you do get used to it and it's not a sharp edge, but you can definitely feel the edge with your fingers. Yet again, I don't know why that is a thing, and I wish that that would have been revised for this mouse. Besides the front flare and those edges absolutely edging you like me at 2 AM, this mouse is great. The shape absolutely works, and I just wish it didn't have those two flaws. It does remind me more of an EC2 than the EC3 because this is not that much of a mini mouse. A ton of people can still absolutely use this, but just keep in mind of those two aspects. In terms of weight, this one comes in at 53.5 grams, and the weight has at no point ever annoyed me in game, and it feels absolutely great. The build quality is yet again, just like on the Viper V3 Pro, the best thing ever. No side wobbling whatsoever, absolutely zero grinding. All buttons are spammable and not too heavy, and I simply wish all mice were like this. The coating is the same as on the black version of the Viper V3 Pro and also the Deathadder V3 Smooth Touch, and also of course incredibly similar to the Deathadder V3 Wired. This is a rubbery coating that is super grippy as soon as your hands are just a slight bit warm, and it is almost perfect. I still do prefer the white version over on the Viper V3 Pro because this is a slight bit more grippy. I find it a bit more easy to grip, and everybody says that about the white and black version comparison. So Razer, please stop being racist. When it comes to the buttons, this yet again has a optical switch implementation. This is the latest version and it is equal to the Viper V3 Pro, and this is absolutely phenomenal. By far the best best optical clicks that I have ever used. They're tactile enough, they're not too tactile, they're also not too heavy, they're definitely spammable, and most important of all, they don't feel like garbage. The side buttons are also super spammable. They yet again have virtually no pre or post travel. The scroll is also very spammable, but you can still definitely feel those tactile steps. And even the scroll click is kinda spammable and not too heavy. Of course, it's not the lightest thing ever, but it is absolutely fine. The skates are absolutely fine. Not the best thing ever, not the fastest thing ever. I would prefer switching over to core pads, but most users will be absolutely fine with this. Since I'm only able to use this mouse on 1K, the battery life has been absolutely fine, and I didn't have to charge it even once when using it for about 1.5 weeks. But talking about high polling, yes, this does indeed support 8K if you buy their hyper polling dongle, which is super overpriced here in Europe. And no, you can't use the receiver of the Viper V3 Pro for this mouse. Before we do get into the software, I do want to compare these mice a bit more. In terms of the overall size, this mouse feels very similar to the Ponus Stormbreaker, but the Stormbreaker feels a bit more maneuverable in my hand, and it overall feels a bit shorter. The way that I grip these mice, it is pretty similar, but then again, I feel absolutely comfortable with my ring and pinky finger up here because there's no flare sticking out, and when I go over on the Viper V3 HyperSpeed, I definitely feel that flare just slightly annoying me. In terms of all other grips, yet again, these mice are quite similar, and I think that the main reason that the Viper V3 HyperSpeed actually annoys me so much at the front is because the flare is kind of round and protrudes like that. It is not a negative taper or a positive taper, it's just like a rounded edge here that kind of sticks out, and you need to push your fingers on top of that, which just is quite weird. Comparing it directly to the Lensu Thorn, I do feel like the Thorn feels a slight bit bigger in all dimensions, and I mainly think that is because it has this hump that is actually aimed at claw grip players, which just fills your palm a bit more. It feels a bit more bulbous even though the dimensions of these mice are super similar. So if you're somebody who just plays aggressive claw grip and kind of nothing else, I would definitely go for the Thorn instead, especially because this also does not have that front flare that annoys me. For an aggressive claw grip like me with 19x10 hands, I definitely prefer the Thorn over here, but I do think that the Viper V3 HyperSpeed is a bit more of a safe shape because it's not just aimed at one specific grip. Getting into the software, yes, you do need to use Razer Synapse. Here you can change your DPI, your polling rate, and you can even go up to 8K if you have the hyper polling dongle. You can also change your liftoff distance between 1 and 2 millimeters. And this is just a implementation of RAW-XL, but actually in Razer Synapse. What you can do here is either use RAW-XL for dynamic sensitivities, depending on how fast you move your mouse, which you can fully customize yourself. You can also actually change the rotation of your sensor, which is actually kind of useful. And if you also don't know what sensor rotation is, definitely watch some videos as well. I will link it all down in the description if you want to learn more about these things. When it comes to my opinion about this mouse, I do think that the price is a tiny bit steep at 119 euros over here in Europe. I think it's kind of unfair because the US price is $99 US. For $99, this is absolutely great because you get Razer Viper V3 Pro build quality and the overall experience of that, just minus the top of the line sensor and the out of the box high polling rate experience. I personally still do think that for 99% of all people, high polling rate is more of a marketing gimmick than an actual benefit. But if you do care a lot about it and want to get this mouse running on 4K, you need to spend freaking 35 euros just for the dongle as well. So you'll be spending over 155 euros only to get this mouse with high polling. That is definitely quite steep, and yet again, I would just recommend you to not get the hyper polling dongle in an instant. I am very happy that they're now upgrading their HyperSpeed lineup yet again to match the quality of the rest of their stuff, and also so that you don't need to use Duracell batteries unlike the upcoming Logitech mouse. So I'm very happy that they're improving in most aspects for sure. And as I already said, 99 bucks in the US is pretty nice for this thing. Now, to my conclusion, who is this mouse for? If you want a smaller ergo mouse and don't put your finger on top of that flare right here, or if you even do like that flare, this mouse is definitely for you. But if you can see this front flare up here being slightly annoying for you and also the edges around the mouse kind of being in touch with your fingers wherever you grip it here on the right side and touching your mouse pad, then I definitely wouldn't buy this thing. I find that there are certainly other ergo mouse out there that are a bit more comfortable to me personally for sure, but then again, shape is super subjective and you need to find what you are able to enjoy. I just find that objectively, this shape could have been designed a bit better and more safe, but other than the shape, this mouse is virtually flawless. Nobody but the best AimLab players in the entire world would be able to feel a difference in terms of the sensor on this thing and also the Viper V3 Pro, so what you're getting for your money here is quite incredible. That is if you live in the United States of America. Yet again, for my 19x10 hands, I can definitely use this with an aggressive claw grip, so now you can kind of imagine what it would be like for you. But I can also barely relax claw grip this thing, so I would say that above 19 by 10 centimeter hands, I probably wouldn't use it. And for anything below, this thing is definitely good enough. That's about it for this video though. If you at all enjoyed this type of content, definitely make sure to subscribe and also ring the notification bell right next to it. And I'll see you guys very soon. Peace out.